Good afternoon, everyone. I am Delegate Janelle Wilkins. This is the meeting of the Election Law Subcommittee on March 4th, 2025. I'm calling our meeting to order. We have a few bills on the docket for today, and we are going to start with House Bill 237, sponsored by Delegate Polakovich Carr. This bill is about General Assembly vacancies and political party central committees procedures. This bill creates a central committee, ensures that central committees have requirements for filling a vacancy for the office of senator or delegate in the General Assembly. This is a bill that we passed last year. Some of the provisions that it includes to make sure that there is a baseline process all across the state for filling these vacancies is that it makes sure that the application period to apply for a vacancy has to be open for at least 7 days. It has to be advertised in a conspicuous manner by the central committee filling the vacancy with a public notice that includes intent to meet, the time and place, and other important information. It requires translation into other languages as required under federal law. It ensures that the applications are posted online and stay there for at least 30 days. And also that a central committee has to hold a public meeting when they are interviewing and voting, and that the votes must be a roll call vote so that that is open for the public. Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just for the sake of the order, me and Delegate Polakovich Carr have worked on this for several years, and she's led the charge. When we first put this bill together, I did work with the Republican State Party chair to make sure language in here did not interfere with the Republican State Party's bylaws. It does not, and they had no problem with the bill.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for the leadership on this bill, Delegate Griffith. We love to see bipartisan election law work products. So we appreciate that. And thank you for making that note. Delegate Roberts. Delegate Roberts. You're
okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I guess, my question was basically that, I know Prince George's County's procedures are, they follow this procedure. I just didn't realize that, that this wasn't a rule. Was it not already a rule?
That's a great question. No, and same thing with Montgomery County. We pretty much follow most of this in terms of our central committee, but there are no specific requirements when it comes to, posting and making sure that votes are recorded. This actually is not something that is in code currently. So this makes sure that every central committee has these just basic transparency pieces.
And RCV, I told Michelle that we would do RCV. We would throw RCV.
League of Women Voters. And if I can have co-host privileges, please. Thank you. Delegate Fair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just would you be willing to entertain a motion?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I move favorable on this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. The bill.
Second.
Thank you. The bill has been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on House Bill 237? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 237, say aye or raise your hand. All right, any opposed? Seeing none, House Bill 237 moves forward favorable to full committee. All right, I am going to skip to House Bill 426. Let me make sure I have the right bill number. I don't know if I have last year's or this year's for RLA, Stan.
It is 426 this year.
426. Okay, thank you. House Bill 426, election law, post-election tabulation of audits, risk limiting audits. This is a bill that we have passed in subcommittee and in full committee countless times. And to brush up on risk limiting audits, this is using statistics and the gold measure when it comes to auditing. We audit every election to make sure that our results are accurate. And risk limiting audits uses a statistical measure to ensure that if there was a full manual count of all records in that race, that there is little to no chance that there would be a different outcome. So it's a more efficient way of conducting an audit. And it does utilize manually examining randomly chosen paper records until we meet that risk limit, until we meet that statistical basic insignificance in terms of it's highly unlikely that a election would have a different outcome. So this bill ensures that following a statewide election, that the state board works with the local boards to conduct RLA in several races for us to check those results. Delegate Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if someone, like maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask for Mr. Damaris to just explain the process of the risk limit audit.
Yes, and Mr. Damaris, thank you for that question, Delegate Roberts, because there actually was sort of a dry run that was done over the interim. So Mr. Damaris can also talk us through what happened there and how it works. So if you can walk us through, go ahead, Mr. Damaris.
Sure, yes. So thank you for the question. We did do a pilot program in Harford County this over the interim from the last statewide election. Basically, we chose, there are 3 different types of methods for risk limiting audits. We chose the ballot. You create a manifest of all the ballots there, and then you use a statistical program to pull out certain ballots so that it would be randomly sampled. And from there, you would, when you count those ballots, the percentage that of the difference between for that office will be reflective in those randomly selected ballots. It was a successful program that we implemented, and there's other ways too, which we're in contact with the state of Pennsylvania, who does risk limiting audits as well on that front. So it's just a simple but efficient method to verify the tabulation of the outcomes of the election.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Roberts. Any other discussion? I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved. Move favorable.
All right. All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. House Bill 426, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 426, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 426 moves forward favorable. All right, we are going to go now to HB 945. This is the bill that deals with changing our gubernatorial primary election date. This would apply to next year's primary election. But it's important to note that with the actual language of the bill, instead of our state law saying that a statewide gubernatorial will be on the last Tuesday in June, the bill would change it to say the 4th Tuesday in June. That's so that for next year and future years, when we have 5 Tuesdays, we want to make sure that we avoid during early voting, Juneteenth and Father's Day, which is a challenge, whether it's recruiting judges, whether it's voter turnout, whether it's the fact that having a little bit earlier helps with identifying locations, particularly for schools that start school construction around that time. So that's the rationale for moving the date. Delegate Roberts.
I was just gonna move favorable.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 945, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. House Bill 945 moves forward favorable. We're on a roll today with the unanimous. We do have one more bill to discuss. Let's see if we can keep the streak or not. House Bill 317. This is the curbside voting pilot program. As members are aware, we have passed curbside voting at least 1 or 2 times. This bill comes in a little bit different this year because it is a pilot program that is looking at whether or not we are able to expand and test the viability of curbside voting in the state. So very quickly, curbside voting is the process by which a voter completes and casts a ballot as a designated outside location under observation of election judges. And under this pilot program, SBE would identify a county with a smaller number of registered voters compared to other areas in the state, a medium number of registered voters, and a large number of registered voters. So there would pretty much be 3 curbside voting locations in the state under this bill. And the local board for each county would pick the location, and we would carry out curbside as that smaller pilot program, learn from it, and then see if we would like to expand it in the future. Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My one concern, and just get clarification, this is still in the bill, but from the bill hearing, I think we talked about that even though it's meant for people that may not be able to go in and vote in person because of a condition, a disability, whatever it may be, anyone in any condition would be able to take advantage of this, correct?
Correct. Technically, anyone would be able to take advantage of it. But you sound like you wanted to add something else.
Well, I mean, that's my concern, and I'm opposed to this for only that reason, because if this is meant to allow people who may not otherwise be able to vote in person to vote in person, and a whole bunch of people that just don't feel like getting out of their cars muck up the system for them, then, what's the point of this? Because those people will still have to wait in long lines, unnecessarily long lines without some kind of guardrails, whether it's you have to have a handicap placard, present a note from the doctor stating that you're unable to walk, something of that nature. I think there needs to be some small guardrail to make sure that this is actually helping people versus, allowing people who may not need this to take away opportunity from those who actually do.
Thank you, Delegate Griffith. We did have some discussion on this, I remember last year, and what we came up with as a committee was that we had directed SBE to, in their language and advertising, share that this is intended for, like at the polling location, right? This is intended for people with disabilities, people with mobility issues, XYZ. I remember that we had come to that solution last year. I am not sure if that is staying. Can you illuminate us on if there's some kind of language on that this year?
There is not actually. That language that you adopted in subcommittee and passed in the House last year is not in this year's bill. But I can read to you the sentence that you all adopted to that end last session, if you would like.
Yes, please. Thank you.
The state board and each local board shall emphasize in communications with voters and the general public that curbside voting is primarily an accommodation for voters with disabilities, as defined in the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, and elderly voters.
So, Madam Chair, I guess my question is why could we not put language in there defining who may or may not use it? I mean,
My only concern, Delegate, and this is a slight pushback that I would give to you. I don't want us to be in a place at the voting polls where people are basically being screened, that if I have some kind of disability, which may or may not be visible, that I have to bring my medical records. Maybe I'm with child and not feeling well, and I have to bring my, show my sonogram. And we don't want to put our polling judges, our election judges, in a position where they are screening in some way. And I think that could be a barrier to people participating. But at the same time, as SBE advertises, as these polling locations have a sign that says curbside voting, it should say, perhaps it should say, for people with disabilities, elderly, et cetera, mobility, et cetera.
So Madam Chair, to that end, because my mind was going in the same place, and Mr. Jamarin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Could we put signage up at the polling place in large language, clarifying what the curbside voting, who it's intended for? Would that be a huge cost, a huge inconvenience to do that?
Yes, I mean, that's a policy decision, to, put curbside voting. We can put the signs up that says that this is for, disability or elderly, citizens for this. So, I mean, signage is not an issue on that front there. I think it has been restricted in other locations. Stan, I think right in Virginia, it is restricted to just, disability and elderly individuals in their law.
And in those states, have they had any lack of access or any prevention of voting as a result of that?
I can't really speak to that or anything with that. I just was looking at some of the laws on it, but we can definitely put up signs along, for the pilot programs.
And I think in the states where the eligibility is restricted, that they're not like trying to verify or
Right.
require proof. It's just that they again, in their communications with the public, they say this is what it's intended for.
Right. I guess the thing is, as long as we don't have to verify that, that it's, for this purpose here, I believe most voters would, honor the communication elements of it.
And I'll just, in closing, I don't want to belabor the point. I support this fully. My only concern is I don't want this to become a Starbucks drive-through, and people that don't need this are taking away the opportunity from the people that really do. That's my concern.
So Delegate Griffith, if we went in the direction of last year where we are clarifying the intended participants, again, without, requiring any specific a screening or anything like that, then that would put you in a better posture.
I think if we did that, and if we were willing to require some kind of signage to that extent as well, I think those two modest guardrails would at least help deter most individuals who may want to do it otherwise.
Right. Fair enough. And
Thank you, Madam Chair.
since I said the word fair, let me go ahead and go to the Delegate Fair. Go ahead.
That was solid. That was a great lead in, Madam Chair. Thank you. No, I just wanted to, I appreciate my good friend from Harford County's concerns there. I'm comfortable with adding the language. I'm not comfortable with us mandating exactly what disabilities would be accessible to this, only because there's such a slippery slope here of countless disabilities that we can't really make that judgment call for individuals. People have respiratory issues versus physical mobility issues. They have challenges being able to be able to stand for long periods of time. There's all kinds of medical-based disability services that could be so wide-ranging and would frustrate the entire system. And so I definitely am always happy with how we passed the posture last year with that language built into the process, and happy to look at that again. But I just wanted to vocalize that I think beyond making the signage clear, I would be a little uncomfortable with kind of mandating or forcing individuals to kind of prove their disability in order to be able to use this curbside voting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Fair. Delegate Miller, then Delegate Roberts, and we're coming close on time. So go ahead, Delegate Miller.
I love how people always say that when I'm up. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just real quickly, what if we said something like intended for individuals with disabilities, who are elderly, or however we want to say that, or that it's medically necessary, to the chair's point about if you're pregnant, or if maybe your child has a disability and you don't want to get them out of the car or something like that. I think if something like that would go, I would definitely be okay with that, with the signage.
Thank you, Delegate Miller. That's very helpful. Delegate Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have two questions. One, I do remember at the bill hearing where there was someone who testified who was in an electrical wheelchair, and she mentioned that that they do this in Virginia. They passed a bill in Virginia. I'd be interested in seeing what Virginia passed, but also I want to make the committee aware that I also have a bill that addresses expedited voting for seniors and those with disabilities, and wanted to know if there's some, I don't know if there's some way to maybe look at the two bills to see which, if there's some kind of combination or anything like that, or if there's something that works well or not, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. On your other bill, curbside voting has been and continues to be the priority of this committee, and hopefully we can bring it to fruition sometime soon. We can definitely and should talk about your other bill, and it should be noted that you have a bill that deals with prioritizing the elderly and other residents who may have mobility issues and other issues with voting. So thank you for your leadership on that. On this curbside voting bill, it sounds like we have some questions and thoughts around prioritization, which I think we can go ahead and hold off on voting today as we figure out some language that might be agreeable to the group. Secondly, I do want to remind everyone, this is a pilot program. So part of what we are trying to figure out is these issues. So I think it's totally reasonable to add that prioritization language, but we should be in a posture that we're going to get lots of information and feedback around this pilot program if it passes, and be able to come back around and have a stronger program. So I appreciate that the delegate has it as a pilot this year. So I just want us to continue to remember that as we keep working on the bill. If you have other thoughts on this bill, please come to me offline, because next time we bring this up, we will be looking to move it out. But thank you everyone for the really helpful feedback and input today. We'll hold off on this one, but the others we're moving forward with. So thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Hi, Delegate. Hi, Chair Wilkins. I'm so sorry I'm late. I had my Public Safety Subcommittee I was chairing, so.
No problem. You did let me know that you would have to arrive late. We had a very robust discussion and helpful discussion on curbside voting. I think we have potentially one amendment on it for the future. So this will be coming back around. So you're still in a good place, but we just might be adding one amendment to it. So thank you for coming to participate. We appreciate it.